Finding Joy in the Holy Land, Israel, Part 3. It seemed a long drive to Bethlehem from Jerusalem. There were wide highways and beautiful houses on the hillsides along the way. We soon came to a border crossing from Israeli into Palestinian territory. The guide informed us that tourism was an important source of income for Bethlehem. He commented also that this was a predominantly Christian population and that thousands of locals had permits to work in Jerusalem for better pay. In the early days, shepherds could be seen with their sheep on the hills of Bethlehem, and Jews visited Bethlehem to shop. Over time, there has been much migration to other countries, and the city has changed a great deal. Shepherd's Field is the place where angels announce the birth of Jesus to shepherds. There are actually two such possible locations, the Franciscan and the Greek Orthodox. In this area, there are 3 different dates for celebrating Christmas: December 25th for many Christians, January 6th for the Armenians, and January 7th for the Greek Orthodox Church. The guide suggested that Jesus may have been born in March or April in the lambing season. The Franciscan Shepherd's Field has a modern tent-shaped church built in 1953 and decorated with a bronze angel. The field also has a large complex of caves containing baths, tunnels, and rooms. It is believed that Mary and Joseph traveled along the trade route from Nazareth to Bethlehem. When the time came, looking for warmth and privacy, Mary gave birth to Jesus in one of the many caves in the area. Tradition has it that they probably lived in Bethlehem for more than a year after his birth. The Greek Orthodox Shepherd's Field houses the Church of the Nativity, where Helena, the mother of Constantine, modified the cave found on the site into a church in 325 AD. In 1972, excavations revealed ruins of 3 different churches, each dating to the 5th, 6th, and 7th centuries. The site houses a new large church, the 4th century cave church, remains of the upper church, and the monastery. The church is shaped like a cross, and the remodeled basement cave has the shape of Jesus with outstretched arms. Jericho is featured in a number of books of the Old Testament. In the New Testament, Jesus also told the story of the injured Jew journeying from Jerusalem to Jericho and the unexpected assistance given by the Good Samaritan. Archaeological excavations have shown that Jericho is one of the oldest inhabited cities on earth. Currently, it is in ruins and a shadow of its former glory. The Mount of Temptation towers over the city of Jericho. It is the place where Jesus was tempted by Satan for 40 days. On top of the mount is a Greek monastery, part of it cut out into the mountain, so it appears precariously perched. One is able to access it, however, by using a cable car. Masada is an impressive fortress located in the southern part of Israel, on top of a rock plateau, on the edge of the Judean desert and overlooking the Dead Sea. Josephus records that between 37 and 31 BCE, Herod built 2 palaces, storerooms amply stocked with food, as well as a fortress on top of the plateau to provide a refuge in the event of a revolt against him. There was ongoing tension between the Romans and Jews, and the Zealots were the traditional resistors. However, a much more radical group emerged later. In 66 CE, the resistors succeeded against the Roman garrison. In 70 CE, after the destruction of the Second Temple, the resistors redoubled their efforts, and more of them settled on the mountaintop. In 73 CE, the Roman governor planned a siege, completely barricaded the garrison, and built a ramp which the attackers used to breach and enter the fortress. When they got in, they found that the defenders had burned all the storerooms and food supplies and had either murdered each other or committed mass suicide, leaving 900 men, women, and children dead. The impressive Masada is a very popular tourist site. It is accessible by cable car, and there are several walkways and trails. John the Baptist was associated with Qumran. The story is told that a teenage Bedouin shepherd looking for his lost goat tossed a rock into a cave and heard a shattering noise. He and his friends, on investigation, found a collection of clay jars, including 7 with leather and papyrus scrolls. An antiquities dealer bought them and exposed them to scholars who estimated that they were up to 2,000 years old. A Syrian Orthodox archbishop is said to have bought 4 of the original scrolls and tried to sell them to US universities. An Israeli archaeologist who had the 3 other scrolls sold them to the newly established State of Israel. It is said that the scrolls were written between 150 BCE and 70 AD by a devout, communal, ascetic Jewish sect, the Essenes, living in Qumran. Their community was disrupted by the Roman invasion. There is archaeological evidence, including the numerous ritual baths, which provide evidence about their lifestyle of purity. The initial set of Dead Sea Scrolls included fragments from every book of the Old Testament except Esther. Isaiah was the only complete book that was preserved. There were also other scrolls. The Dead Sea is a lake that divides Jordan and Israel. It lies below sea level. It is rich in minerals, and its water and mud are used for treatment of skin ailments. In the early days, the salt from the Dead Sea was a big commodity, and people settled there for commerce. The waterline is currently receding, perhaps because of climate change. Because of its density, it is easy to float in the Dead Sea, and many of us enjoyed that experience. Neat Kedumin Park. Neat means pastures or places of beauty. Kedumin means ancient. This is a biblical landscape reserve on 625 acres of land, halfway between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Through its ancient agricultural and herding facilities, it shows what life was like about 3,000 years ago. Growing on it is a large collection of plants mentioned in the Bible. We saw wild almond, wild sage, and hyssop. The reserve emphasizes the past and current importance of water, which in earlier times was collected for drinking, agriculture, and ritual baths. A scene was reenacted between Rebekah and Eliezer, Abram's trusted servant, who was sent to find a wife for Isaac. When Eliezer asked for water, and Rebekah pulled up the water from the well and offered it not only for him, but also for his camel, he knew she was the one for Isaac. We were reminded that in Deuteronomy 28, rain is linked with obedience to God and also to God's blessings. Water is scarce. In Israel, it rains on average 20 to 30 days per year, and only during the rainy season from October to early May. When it rains, there are announcements on television and kids go dancing in the streets. In the park, there was also a display of the Torah and accessories, including the scroll, wooden shafts, gartel, mantle, crown, and pointer. Also shown were the mezuzah, a piece of parchment containing verses from the Torah, and the phylactery, a leather box containing Torah verses worn by some Jews on the body while praying. The Davidson Center displayed a 3-dimensional model of Old Jerusalem. It also contained artifacts found in excavations from the First and Second Temples, as well as from the Muslim and Crusader times. Looking at the temple ruins, there was a contrast between the old temple with its smaller stones and Herod's extension with its massive stones. The broad staircase, called the Southern Steps, has 30 steps with a landing about 200 feet wide. This led both to the Gentile courts as well as to the temple itself. To the sides of the stairs were ritual baths where persons cleansed themselves before worship. Archaeologists believe there was a large plaza with a lot of traffic. During the Second Temple period, the disciples went to the temple daily. Rabbis had followers, and Jesus would have his followers sit while he taught them on the steps. This last leg of the journey was sobering. It was dampened by the realities of the unfortunate state of Jericho, the receding Dead Sea, the tensions in the Israeli-Palestinian relationship, the phasing out of the Essenes in Qumran, and the death before dishonor episode in Masada. I learned so much, a wealth of geography, history, religion, and culture. I also unlearned some of the preconceptions about Judaism and Islam, and came to better appreciate people in the context of universal values. I saw beauty in deserts and in rocks, artistry in naked, rugged mountains. I glimpsed orchards in the desert, crops cultured on parched land, and water conserved drop by drop. I learned lessons from strange landscapes, from unfamiliar places and new faces. My God, how great thou art!